Thank you all for coming. What a great crowd. It's so good to be with so many friends. But before I kind of start my remarks, I do want to recognize a few people. And I want to thank Jeff Haig, the president of DSSA, for his tireless work on behalf of all of you, every Delaware gun owner. He does a tremendous job. Jeff, thank you very much. Personally, I'm very proud to be an honorary life member, thanks to John and my friends. And Mitch Denham. Mitch, where's Mitch? He has a volunteer Facebook group called Delaware Gun Rights, and it's been critical to organizing the grassroots in opposition to some of these gun control schemes. If you're not a member already, please join Delaware Gun Rights. Thank you for doing it. And I also want to thank my friend John. Thank you, Mitch. And I also want to thank my friend John Sigler. John's retired from the Navy. He's a retired police captain, and we honor you for your service. You've been a tireless defender of freedom as president of DSSA and also as president of the National Rifle Association. Thank you for your leadership and for your friendship. And Ingrid, thank you for being here too. So thank you, John. And it's good to see our NRA board members here. It's good to see all of you here. And the truth is, I'm glad we have so many committed people here because we're facing some pretty dark times, some pretty serious challenges. Never in the history of this organization have we faced such a coordinated attack on so many different fronts. In states like New Jersey, California, Oregon, and right here in Delaware, we're dealing with it every day, some days just trying to keep our heads above water. Meanwhile, in New York, Tom, I'm not going to blame this for you, but your governor, Andrew Cuomo, is leading one of the most unconstitutional abuses of power in the history of our country in a blatant attempt to destroy this organization. He issued, for those of you who don't know, the governor of New York issued a blanket threat to every bank. Said, you do business with the National Rifle Association, it's the last business you'll do in this state. Meanwhile, the media wages a 24/7 war against our character and our reputation. Right now, there's reporters for the New York Times, the Washington Post, BuzzFeed, and beyond. They're looking at every tweet, every photo, every Facebook post, every word that gun owners have said in an attempt to try to twist it and dive a knife right into our backs. Their ultimate goal is to make associating with this side so personally and professionally dangerous that future generations just won't do it. Meanwhile, that socialist wave that we warned you about is here. And it's not just hitting the coast, it's hitting the heartland of America. Behind all these efforts is a growing group of billionaires led by Michael Bloomberg, funding at unprecedented levels. And even though it's still January of 2019, the 2020 election's here. It's already started. People have already announced that they're running for president and they can't move to the left fast enough on gun control. I remember back in 2008 when Barack Obama was just a candidate for the Democrat nomination. And on the campaign trail, he actually sounded like Charlton Heston's illegitimate son. I don't know if you remember that. I support the Second Amendment. I'm not going to take your rifle or your shotgun or your handgun. You know, if you like it, you can keep it, sort of thing. We know how that worked out. And the only time he shared his true beliefs was by accident. But even then, no matter how much they really hated the Second Amendment, everyone knew that campaigning as an anti-gun, freedom-hating socialist was a surefire way to sink your ship before it left harbor. That was then. Today, the rules have completely changed. This year, if you aren't openly willing to attack the Second Amendment, if you don't angrily call for every gun control scheme imaginable, up to and including a complete disarmament and confiscation, you'll probably be booed off the debate stage. Just look at who's running so far. Julian Castro, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris. These are candidates you might expect to see running in Denmark or Sweden, but they're actually running for president of the United States. And those are just a few of more to come. And whether or not he runs, Michael Bloomberg is going to continue to have a major influence on the future of our right to keep and bear arms. Friends, I've been doing this for 25 years, over 25 years, and in that time I've never seen the level of passion and enthusiasm on the other side. They're more united than ever, they're better funded than ever, they're more confident than ever, and more inspired to destroy the Second Amendment. And rest assured, they are on the attack. Everywhere I go, I usually have somebody who comes up to me and says, "Chris, I'm sorry for everything you all are going through. It's terrible the way they're attacking the NRA." And I respond the same way every time. We don't exist for the easy times. We exist for the hard times, times like these. This isn't the first time we've been hated for what we do, and it sure as hell won't be the last time. But the truth is, they're not just doing it to the National Rifle Association. They're doing it to every individual American gun owner. And what they really want is that gun in your safe, in your nightstand, or on your person. And we simply can't let them get away with it. We're tasked with defending this freedom not just for ourselves, but for future generations. The good news is we're 5 million never quit, never surrender patriots who do what it takes to win. We don't need simple words of encouragement. We need support. Because during dark times and during fights, you need to know where your friends are, and you need to know that you've got each other's backs. We haven't just been here before. We're actually undefeated when it matters the most. The higher the stakes, the tougher we get. That's who we are. Time after time throughout history, when freedom's at stake, NRA does what no one else can. Many of you remember the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. Everyone who could afford to leave that city was long gone. The only people left were the poorest and most vulnerable. The streets were flooded, no supplies, no cell phones, no groceries. Law enforcement couldn't reach some neighborhoods for weeks. And in those terrifying times, the only semblance of law and order came from good people who were able to protect themselves and their families. Then I heard something truly horrifying. David Lehman walked in my office and said, "Listen, there are reports coming in from New Orleans that they're going door to door confiscating lawfully owned firearms from law-abiding citizens." It's been almost 20 years, and it's still hard to believe that it actually happened. But here's a short video to remind you. There's screens on either side. Friends, that wasn't in San Francisco, California. That was in the sportsman's paradise of Louisiana. What happened in New Orleans wasn't just a disgrace. It was a human tragedy that can never happen again. For those people, it was their darkest hour. And in that one horrifying moment, when the odds seemed stacked against them, one organization stood ready to answer their call. Please watch.
Remember Bill Teal? The firearms he had for protection were confiscated by sheriff deputies. And although he tried to get them back, all he got was the runaround.
It made me angry when they told me to go get a lawyer if I wanted my guns back.
Angry enough to pick up the phone and call the one group he knew could help him, the National Rifle Association.
This was a Tuesday around noon when I called NRA. Wednesday at noon, an investigator was knocking on my door, had just flown in from New York.
2 days later, the NRA filed a federal lawsuit, and a judge quickly ruled in its favor, ordering law enforcement to stop confiscating firearms from law-abiding citizens and to return those they had already taken.
I was there. I can tell you that's exactly what happened. We had people go down to New Orleans, get around the barricades, find people who had had their guns confiscated. Then we worked together, took them to court, and we sued to stop it. Not long after that, we got a bill passed through Congress and signed by the President of the United States to make sure that it never happened again. Since 2005, over a dozen hurricanes have hit this country. And in that time, not one American's had their lawfully owned firearm taken away from them at a time they needed it the most. Thank God for this organization. We all remember when big city mayors teamed up with trial lawyers and launched a scheme to sue the firearms industry out of business. They wanted to hold great American companies like Colt and Smith & Wesson liable every time some criminal went out and misused and illegally used one of their firearms. They would have bankrupted the entire industry if not for the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. It took us 7 years and 3 election cycles to get that law on the books, but without it, every gun company in America would have been bankrupt. Every single one. Think about what that would have meant as law-abiding gun owners, being reliant on, France and Russia for our firearms. But instead of that, because of your NRA, the great arsenal of our democracy is thriving. And no one's forgetting where we can't forget where we were just 3 years ago, when Justice Scalia passed away in February of 2016. And the Second Amendment and the Supreme Court hung in the balance because that 5-4 decision in Heller was gone. The truth is, the soul of the country hung in the balance. Hillary Clinton said that the Heller decision, which gave you your individual right to keep and bear arms, was a terrible decision. She also said Barack Obama would make a terrific Supreme Court justice. Without the National Rifle Association, Hillary Clinton would be President of the United States right now, and the U.S. Supreme Court would be stacked against us and working right now to overturn our basic right to own a gun. We would truly be witnessing the end of firearms freedom in this country. Instead, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh are on the court, and as Tom mentioned this fall, they're going to hear a case, the first Second Amendment case in 9 long years, and we intend to win it. But nothing. But nothing, and I mean it, nothing matters more to this organization than when the rights of one single solitary person are trampled. It happens all too often, and usually to the most vulnerable among us. Government suffocates and silences the weakest individuals and never expects them to fight back. Well, let me tell you about a woman from right here in Delaware who embodies everything great about the National Rifle Association. You all know her, Miss Josephine Byrd. Like a lot of low-income senior citizens in this state, she lives in government housing in Wilmington. It's not the safest place to live, but it's what she can afford, and she's happy she has it. A few years ago, crime started to rise in her building. Gangbangers patrolled the hallways, harassing and intimidating seniors like Josephine. She wanted to buy a firearm to protect herself. All she really wanted was to feel safe. But the housing authority didn't care about her feelings or her rights. They also didn't care about her safety. All they cared about were their politics. And so they told her, if you buy that gun, we're going to kick you out to the streets. I could tell you what happened next, but please watch this video because Josephine does a much better story than I do, tells a much better story than I do. Josephine, thank you for being here and thank you for your courage. We love you. We love you. There are millions of Josephine Byrds all over America who are alive today because their freedom was there for them in the moment they need it the most. Exercising the Second Amendment is a life or death decision for millions of Americans every single day, in bad neighborhoods and good ones, on sidewalks, in restaurants, at work, or at home. But our fight isn't just about Supreme Court victories or legislative victories or election victories. It's about the dignity and honor of every single American. There's a single mother living in a trailer park somewhere in America this evening. Her husband beat her, so she took the kids and ran. Now she's out on her own, trying to build a new life for her family. She works 2 jobs. The trailer park's not safe, but it's all she can afford. And someday she dreams of renting a 2-bedroom apartment. No one in this room's ever met her, and no one ever will. She'll never be famous. Maybe she's a Republican. Maybe she's a Democrat. Most likely she's got more important things to worry about. But without the National Rifle Association in America, there's no one in the world waking up to make sure she has the same right to protect herself and her family than elitist billionaires like Michael Bloomberg. That's who we are, and that's what we do. When you fight for freedom, you fight on the most principled ground. You fight for freedom of the people you'll never meet, people you might disagree with, who you might not even like. But people. Not governments, not political parties, not corporations. People. This principled conviction is the core of our strength and the heart of our courage. So while these are dark times, And yeah, the other side's got all the money in the world and they'll spend every penny to try to destroy us. I'm not scared, and I know you're not either. Other side, they can have all the billionaires and socialists we want, or they want. We've got millions of Josephine Byrds. There's no organization in American history with even a shred of our credibility when it comes to winning fights. And the reason for that is because no one can match the righteousness of our cause and the sheer determination of our people. The tougher it gets, the more impossible the odds, the higher the stakes, the stronger we are. Because we're the National Rifle Association of America, and we do one thing, and we do it better than anyone else. We win. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting DSSA. Thank you for standing up for freedom. Stick with us. We're going to do great things together. God bless you. Thank you.